Hi, Corey.
Hi.
I've got so many questions for you that were sent in over the last month. We could just jump right into it if you're ready for it.
Yeah, sure. Um, okay, and we're doing an hour today, right?
Yeah, an hour sounds good. We probably fit in a lot that way.
Sounds good. Yeah, we have a lot of exciting things going on that we're working on, and it's been a lot of fun, but it's been pretty intense as well. So, hopefully, at the beginning of the year, we're going to be hiring some game developers. Some like five to start with. So things are getting exciting and kind of going in ways that I didn't expect, but you got to kind of be like water and go with the flow, and things are getting really exciting. Yeah. So next year we hope to, um, you know, make some of it public, what's going on, but we're keeping a lot of it close to the vest. So if people see me kind of quiet, that's what I'm working on pretty much. Other than Ascension Works TV, that's what I've dedicated myself to. So more and more people are just going to see me and my information on Ascension Works TV, and publicly they'll probably see more of the games and film stuff, coming forward. But we'll keep Ascension Works TV our kind of cozy little place to keep everybody updated.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's very exciting, and a lot of people just absolutely love the idea that your story could be represented visually in any way, but an interactive way of representing it is the most exciting, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very exciting. I was excited about the comic book kind of way of displaying, all of this information. But the games, it's even better than the films. I'm not as excited about doing movies and television. In games, for $350,000 to $500,000, you can do, you can produce a video game, a 3D video game that is an hour to an hour and a half experience, like a movie, to where it's an interactive movie and everyone can interact with everything that I've talked about. So it's so exciting. We were talking with people about doing like 10, $20 million crazy games, but more and more we're getting kind of pulled into doing some of these smaller games that we can do kind of like a series, and do those in conjunction with the 2D and 3D more complex games. So it's all kind of developing, but it's really exciting, the possibilities of sharing this information to, I think it's 3.2 billion people who play games, which is 41% of the population. 41% of people play video games. So yeah, it's an amazing opportunity to really make a difference and have a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. The people I'm working with are professionals in the gaming and financial business, and we're ready to get started. And the other cool thing is, with these games, with the big, expensive, grandiose games, you're looking at 5 years minimum to produce them and get them out. These some of these we can produce in as little as 8 months. So we can start have them rolling out in a series. So but yeah, it's really exciting, and I'm glad that some people in the community are excited as well. I've received a lot of emails from people wanting to be beta testers of the game and offering their advice, gamers in the community. So yeah, I look forward to see how people in the community respond to how we depict everything in the games. It's going to be so much fun.
Yep. All right. We can dive into some questions now. Um, so we got a few questions this time about a book called the Urantia book. We occasionally get questions about the Urantia book. A lot of people have this kind of like as their foundation, and the Law of One books talk about it very briefly, not in the most positive way. They don't identify with very great clarity of what the source of the information is. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on the Urantia book. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never been drawn to it. Um, and there some of these some of this information was brought or given to us for a certain purpose, but then humans take it and we turn it into our little canon for our own little religion. I have, I'm sorry, in situations where people quote all of these different books, including the Law of One, as like chapter and verse, like when we were growing up in the church, how Amen, Psalms, blah, 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 and they start. People have abandoned like their old kind of religion and belief systems and just kind of morphed other things to replace them. So you have to look at these things. Everything is energy. We don't really realize it, but we're in kind of like an energetic world where things coalesce, according to consciousness. We have to realize that everything is energy, and, including money, books, information, it's all energy. And the energy is going to be perceived differently by different people, especially people who are not that emotionally intelligent or developed to where they want to grow, but they're not willing to focus on certain things. And they just want to find information that placates, them. We have a lot of that going on. So what we need to do is start almost seeing the world like a video game and seeing things like resources, and not so emotionally tied to them. There is a spiritual component to disclosure and this, of obviously the ascension process, but the whole point is to break out of religious mindset and groupthink, and to ascend, you have to do that because it's ego that holds on to that stuff. So as long as we're locked in ego and belief systems and not being open and ready to blossom and ascend, we're going to use that information as a crutch or as a shield in certain situations. So these books, the information are energy. Some of them have a certain percentage of disinformation with very good information. It is trying to go this esoteric path of enlightenment is fraught with a lot of disinformation and other negative things, sadly. So those of us who are seeking that path, we have to, learn to take in information and over time, but not get so emotionally connected to it or where it becomes like a spiritual shield or crutch for us. We take in the information and then we move on and gain more wisdom and not get stuck in a little energetic trap around a book or around a certain belief system. That's what's held us back the whole time. And that's what prevents us from ascending.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I found helpful in the Law of One books is that it says that we can be manipulated by our attachment to specific information as opposed to spiritual philosophy. So the specificity of the information can attract the negative influences to the point where we are held back by something we're holding on to like that. Yeah. So another area of religious questioning that I've seen come in lately is relating to the Hindu gods, and people were wondering if you've ever seen blue-skinned beings similar to what Hindus have depicted as the blue-skinned beings.
Yeah, in the inner Earth beings that are supposedly us from the future, there were with blue skin, light blue skin, the blue veins, and they were with the Asian group that had the crystals in their foreheads. My information is that they, from their future, they traveled back thousands and thousands of years, even into our past, and established their project just like the Anshar did, but not as far back. And they work with other humans from the future that have gone back to guard a timeline that is the same timeline, or they have the same interests. And somewhere floating around the internet, if you look, are images that I had created of these blue skinned people back when I was doing the television show with David Wilcock.
Nice. All right. So you've said in the past that there's a lot of infrastructure in space relating to what these secret space programs have been developing, and that humanity will begin to have access to this infrastructure. And what would be the time frame that we start to gain access to this, and how long are we looking at before it's actually useful to humanity?
Well, that's if we choose what they're calling the alpha timeline, the most positive timeline. If it's not certain that humanity is going to choose that, and a lot of groups have their doubts. So yeah, if we choose the alpha timeline, that after the solar flash and all of that occurs, and then we start to reintegrate, it won't be immediate. It's not going to be like, oh, there's disclosure. You want to come check out the space station? You, the one out of 8 billion people on the planet. So the infrastructure is going to be slowly revealed to the planet before we have real access to it. It's all going to be something that occurs over long periods of time. I know everybody wants everything to happen now, in my lifetime or in my kid's lifetime. That's not how Ascension or any of this stuff plays out. The universe plays the long game. It could care less what we think or feel about how things should happen. So it has a bigger plan. We're not in a place to where, I don't know, that's just where I'll leave it.
Yeah, that's good. I thought we cover some of these questions people had about your original testimony. So what was it that when you were aboard the research vessel in the secret space programs, what was your intuitive empath role when you were on that research vessel? Or was it because of your intuitive empath abilities that you were on that vessel?
Yes, but we were cross-trained for a number of things. I worked in communication. I rotated in to work on the power systems. There was a process of removing these little, they called them minnow baskets, these little cages that spun inside these generators that had a special mineral coated on them, like powder. And every once in a while, you'd have to swap them out. And then they go through a process of kind of like the old developing film process. You take the basket, you wash it in under certain chemicals, very strong chemicals. You put it in a bath, and then you take it and you put it in another thing that cleans off the little burnt pieces of the minerals, and it's kind of like it's full of like little tiny gravelly stuff. And then it pops after about a certain amount of minutes. You take it out, and then you dip it again in another chemical, and then you roll it around in this powder, and then the machine spins it. And then when it's done, you take it out. It's still kind of wet with powder stuff, and then you put it in this little oven thing. And then it's not really a heat oven. It's some sort of particle bombardment kind of oven. And then all of the powder solidifies on this minnow basket. You put it back in the giant cylinder where there's like 5 or 6 of them on their sides. You close the cylinder, and they start spinning. And these minerals are magnetic, electromagnetic. So they have a positive and a negative side. except they have this weird thing that when they come, the positive and negative sides come into the fields come into contact with each other, they produce a burst of energy. So these things are spinning, creating a huge amount of energy that is then piped into these giant capacitor batteries, where it's held and can be used in, like, if they want to use it in a weapon system, they can use like a ton. They have a wide bandwidth of energy available to them, but they drain during use. And then, the people have to man the power bank. So I did a number of different things. The intuitive empath skill was even used. I would be briefed on projects. There would be projects on a ship, like scientific testing and different things that they were doing projects. And I would be briefed, and they wouldn't know about each other's projects, but I would be brought in with the head of a certain amount of projects. I would, with other empaths, we would receive the information, and then we were intuitively able to find ways to think outside of the box, kind of an intuitive way of seeing how this will succeed, this won't, or this will succeed better if you combined it with the other project that, these two projects don't even know about each other, but if you brought these projects together, you would have this big breakthrough. We were used for when they would do kind of like away missions, for, the normal IE type of stuff. There was a lot of things that we were utilized for, but no one had one job. Everyone was, they called it redundancy training, to where, if anyone, if a certain area of the ship was damaged and everyone that knew how to fix a certain thing were killed, you're kind of screwed. So you have other people around the ship that have cross-trained and can fulfill those duties.
Thanks for all that detail. Yeah, that's great. Another question here was, so you had 320 in VAX. Did they give you a choice to continue after you got back from the first one?
No, none of them were, for me, I was asked. People that are in the military many of them are given that wonderful choice of joining these programs, knowing that their mind would be erased afterwards. But a lot of them are recruited and given a choice in these military groups. But the people it's not a whole lot of people from the civilian. You have all these people out telling stories that they were involved in these programs. They don't really pull that much from the civilian groups, except for during times of, when they really need a certain skill set. But they aren't abducting millions of kids and putting them in the secret space program. It's not like that.
One thing that you have said in the past is that humans on Earth have a wider spectrum or bandwidth of emotions. Does that mean that we have actually more kinds of emotions, or just we're feeling the emotions more strongly?
Yeah, most groups have our emotions, but they're not as overwhelming to where they succumb to their emotions like our species does. Our species is, they kind of see us like fish schooling. They change direction, follow each other, and we're all erratic. And a fish by itself is kind of an interesting thing, but a school of fish, it's just like one giant organism almost, the way it behaves. And we are kind of flighty that way, humans are, which makes us unpredictable and dangerous. Most of the other groups out there that have the emotions that we do, but just not just the crazy bandwidth, overwhelming emotions that we have, came into balance and were able to, create technologies and civilization that was more advanced far before, we will, just because they had more control of their emotions, or their emotions just weren't that big of an issue. Now, some planets, they had similar issues with emotions, but apparently that's something on our planet that we're just hyper emotional compared to other beings out there.
Do you think that that would mean that it'd be advantageous if we're in charge of our genetics over the next thousands of years? Would we be dialing down our emotions or dialing down certain emotions?
Yeah, people do all sorts of things when they start playing with the genetics over that 900-year period. Change their skin color, change all different types of things. Give themselves like abilities to see at night, but their eyes are different now. They're bigger. There's people start really genetically engineering their children pretty heavily during one period of our future, supposedly.
Do you think that there's a ice age or mini ice age coming in the near future?
That's what everyone I spoke to, all of the scientists in the background, talked about, was that we were headed towards another ice age. That there was that's what was happening. We were headed towards another ice age, and it was cyclical.
Do you think this is going to be noticeable in the next 900 years? And as we're transitioning, this is something we have to deal with?
Yes. Now, I don't know, after the solar event occurs and the Earth is tilted and comes after all of that, I don't know how that's going to affect, if it's going to accelerate an ice age, if it's going to do something else. I don't know.
Okay. So I guess we got one question here about the role of the Nazis, and this person is saying there's not enough emphasis in our community around what the Nazis represent and what they've done. So do you feel that the nature of the cabal is basically the same thing as the nature of the original Nazi movement?
The Nazis and the cabal were at odds at different time. Were at odds during that time period. I just know that basically, after Paperclip and a few other programs that people don't really know about, we brought in so many Nazis into our government that they basically took over a period of time. So some parts of our government are Nazi-esque. Yes, they're great grandchildren of Nazis, that are in government now in the United States.
We could go to what is your concept of God? What does that word mean to you?
God is the being that is having this massive daydream that we're a part of. And I don't have this God on a throne type thing going on in my belief system. It's pretty much the universe is the mind of God, and God is having a big daydream, and it's a hyperdimensional being that we couldn't even begin to understand or how it thinks. And this being is sitting back trying to understand duality, and to do so, it has to put itself in a position to where it forgets who it is, and it experiences a universe as every little piece in the universe. And God is playing every part. God is playing me, you, my dog, the molecules held together, forming the walls. This is all a big experiment, I believe, a big mind experiment. And, this God lives in a dimension devoid of all of these things we're experiencing. And, who knows, maybe when we die, some of us will wake up and we'll be in an arcade, and this was just one hell of a immersive experience. That I don't have a flesh and bone, white bearded vision of God. That's that never jived with me, even as a kid, sitting across with my grandfather, who was a minister, talking about the Bible and all of that. It just, just didn't, never really clicked with me.
We'll jump around here. So there are still a lot of reptilian bases operating the same as they always have under our feet. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do they do operations to affect humanity?
Yeah, reptilians and certain gray groups are working directly with the elites who run our planet. They worship them. So they have direct influence over everything we're going through on a number of levels. So yeah, they are just as active, if not more so, because they know we're getting close to that time, the time of times. And they are heavy at work. They haven't been chased off the planet. They aren't, defeated. They are, they're digging in and following their plan.
So there's a question here that's a follow-up from a previous month's question about the nature of ET souls kind of being banished in a sense, or ET souls that couldn't evolve properly with their native group and they were sent to Earth. And there was some implication. This person thought maybe it's an unethical thing that they're being sent here, like that would slow their evolution. But I assume it's actually accelerating their evolution if souls are sent here and forced to deal with our climate or more challenging circumstances. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Our little sphere that we're in is one of the heaviest density spheres of learning that there is. And some groups, positive and negative groups, will drop souls off here, for different agendas. So some of the ones being dropped off here, are unethical, like on planets to where there are totalitarian planets, and there are certain souls that keep causing problems every time they reincarnate. They find a way to intercept that soul after their last death, and before they reincarnate, they are kind of put in a hard drive, brought to our planetary sphere, and then released, and then they enter our incarnation cycle.
Another subject here that came up a few times is around China and the East's and their views on the disclosure that's unfolding, if you have any idea. And do you think that China or Russia would have any kind of plan for disclosure that would be separate from what the United States government is wanting?
I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see how they respond to the UAP disclosures happening in the U.S. Russia and China have kept the secrets there even more ruthlessly than we have here. So what is their benefit? What do they get from it? Why would they do that? So, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see.
Right. If people are being contacted in their dreams, do you think that they have any way of knowing who they're dealing with, or if they're being deceived by those entities in their dreams?
It's really hard because there's so many different personality types and so many ego distortions that I'm just going to talk as if, I guess, there aren't people with ego distortions, because these beings, they come in and they're very deceptive. The deceptive ones, they play into your ego, your wants, your desires, what you think you should deserve, your truth. They look into your mind and learn your truth. and then, use it to manipulate you. We have gray ETs, and I've heard it from a number of people now that are entering people's homes, standing around their bed and giving them dream visions of speaking with tall Nordic Galactic Federation types. And, they tried to pull that on me as well. I spoke about, a week or two ago. So there is a lot of, I would say, you have to be very suspicious and tread very carefully. There is a huge, huge effort by like the cabal doing their infiltration of the community is going on, but we also have the Orion group is focused heavily on this community to deceive it and to make sure that the star seeds and different people get stuck in little traps, and it's working very well.
I guess there's a related question here about the positive ETs that we may be interacting with through meditations. Do you think that is there a lot of positive sources that people end up contacting when they reach out in meditation?
Yes, but very few of them like reveal themselves to you as another being. They just sit back and you're asking God, asking the universe questions, and they're giving you answers unobtrusively, the positive ones. They don't just contact you and say, I am Jonah of this certain race. We find you special and think that you will understand this message beyond anyone else on your planet. And then, that's for you to get there to a point to where the positive groups are face to face with you or directly communicating with you. You go through a long period of them slowly acclimating you to their energy, and they're dealing with your higher self to know how, because your higher self they can communicate with your higher self, and your higher self will be like, no, they have a distortion towards this. If you approach them, they will start thinking that there's some sort of prophet. If you need to sort of lay the groundwork first. And so the positive ET beings are very patient and very loving, and they're not going to come in and pat you on the back and make you feel like a good boy or a good girl. They're not here to be our parents. They're here to assist us in doing the work ourselves. And they're not, so it's very difficult right now to tell the difference, because I was confused. I didn't know what the heck was going on when the Grays tried to pull that trick on me. And if, people who haven't had these types of communications, if that was to happen, they're going to be overwhelmed. I felt the emotions. I felt the spiritual thing. They know how to make you feel what they want you to feel. And the average person is just going to be overwhelmed by it all and then just go with it. And then the next thing you know, we have, a new person, writing a book or doing videos and further diluting everything that was supposed to go on in the community. So these are the times to where it's very difficult to discern. And that's a word I hear people use a lot. And discern, people say, well, I discerned that, when all they did was they went with something that felt good. That felt good, that's not discerning. But a lot of people are going to have more and more trouble discerning going into the future. That's why it's so important to go within, make sure that you're steady and ready for what's coming, because it's just more chaos and more deception. And in the last days, even the elite, not the elite, the elect would be deceived, and it's very difficult right now, so we just have to be humble and not jumping around with the shield of our truth out, because every one of us out here, part of our truth is made up of lies. That's just the nature of the world we live in.
It's also interesting to me that, the positive beings are those more likely to see everyone as one anyway. So maybe they even see us as an extension of themselves to the degree. Why would we identify differently if we're just operating together on the same team in some way.
And they've learned to play with universal laws so well and to flow with them that they don't want to get karmically entangled with us. If they come down and show themselves, and then we start worshiping them and we start drawing pictures of them and books, and people start like praying to them, and or we don't call it praying, meditate to them, same damn thing. If you're doing that, sure. That's not what positive beings do. They don't want to be the center of your emotional attachments, spiritual attachments, and distortions, because if they contribute to that, they karmically are tied to us and are going to have to pay a price.
Yeah. All right, let's go to a question here about the last cataclysm. So do you feel that the reason that there are many spiritually advanced enlightened gurus and swamis in India, is that related to the fact that there were a group that came from the previous cycle that were advanced that went over to that region?
Yeah, more than anything else, it has to do with libraries and information being lost. Up in the high mountains and certain caves, they were able to preserve ancient knowledge that was lost almost everywhere else on the planet. So a lot of the people on the planet had to start from scratch, and there were certain other areas of the planet to where things were preserved, and they were just able to carry on. And I think has more to do with that than it has to do with outside ET or whatever influence.
Do you still have any communications with the Anshar?
In my dreams from time to time, but it's not at all like it used to be. But who knows? It always happens in clusters. So I say that now, it could start up again.
Mm-hmm. We had another question here. This came up a few different times from people because of something that you said recently about, I was asking you about the pre-Adamite culture and the pyramids, and you said that you thought maybe they were responsible for pyramids. And I don't know if we talked about clearly what pyramids or where, or because the Law of One talks about Ra, and there being a connection between Ra and the creation of the Great Pyramid. And I feel like there's just a lot of questions that I still have, and I didn't get the impression that you have very many details on what pyramids and who created what pyramids.
Yeah, all the majority of pyramids that were created across Africa and South America were done under the order of the pre-Adamites.
I see. All right. Let's see, we could hop around a bit. So tell us more about what are the differences between the highest density beings that you communicated with and people? What are the biggest differences between our consciousness? Might not be easy.
That's almost impossible. People are, I'm sorry, people are broken, frazzled, hyper emotional, mentally ill beings. Communicating with a person and using empathic abilities with a person, they are so scattered that depending on the moment you catch them, you get we're so unpredictable, and we go from emotion to emotion. It is completely different than the higher density beings. They're just locked in, and you're not communicating with an ego as we know ego here on Earth. It is something else. That's really how there's no comparison between the two. People have been getting really pissed off at me and right, I'm tired of you ragging on the human race. We're victims. No, Yeah, we have been victimized. We invited the devil may have shown up in the Garden of Eden and tempted us, but we were warned and we went down that road anyway. And these reptilian beings and all of these other beings that have been real slippery and sly and tricked us into certain things over time, they wouldn't have been able to trick us if we weren't compromised in some way. And they have tinkered with our genetics, in different ways. And people want to use that as the scapegoat. But humans do not have a very good reputation outside of this planetary sphere. We don't. And when the solar event happens and we start to, over the next 1,000 years, whatever, start to rebuild ourselves and grow again and start to become part of the cosmic neighborhood, where we're actually interacting, we're going to have to go through a period of, they're going to hold us at arm's length, and they're going to let us grow, and there's not going to be a whole lot of trust in the beginning. They're not like hippies in the community that are just like, they have this too. They're not just all this. And there's a balance of the heart and the mind, and they share their love. They are loving, but they're also very strategic, because if you just follow your heart, it'll guide you into situations to where you mean well, but now you're all trapped in a karma of another civilization or person or whatever. And people that just live by the heart are going to find themselves in that trap. But when they and people who are too intellectual will never grow in certain ways spiritually, because they keep themselves completely walled off. To have a balance between the intellect and the heart is what we need to be able to really start integrating with the other beings out there, because we do not have that now, and most of them do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for that. So I have a difficulty knowing how many specific names I should be mentioning when people ask for specific connections, but there's a name that's been going around on the internet called an organization, the Light System, TLS. Have you heard of that name ever?
No.
All right. And then people keep on bringing up another one called QFS, Quantum Financial System, something like that. That it's being used by I know many different groups attach themselves to that acronym QFS.
I did some major briefings with some of the biggest proponents, people claiming to be princes and all this stuff that were connected to Indonesia and all these new financial system stuff. It's all been bullshit. That Nezra, all of that, none of that's it. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is that we're going to flip over. We had the 100 and something years of the West controlling the financial system. Now it's going to flip over to where the East controls it. And it's not going to be a smooth transition. There's going to be conflict involved. But that was agreed upon a long time ago. And some of the Asian groups that serve the same ET groups are like, yeah, it's our turn to take over. And it's going to be quite a bit different, moving over the next several years, with the BRICS nations taking over and starting to run the global financial system. Things will be more commodity based. It's going to change quite a bit. It'll also be totalitarian, moving to digital currencies and all sorts of other things, track and trace, knowing your every move, every little thing you spend your energy on money wise. It's not a positive thing that we're moving into. It's just different. It's going to be corrupt in a different way. It's human. It's a human run system. So all of these other things, like if you want, I have talked to the super high level people, people making extreme claims, and it's none of it's panned out. It just hasn't. But there are some financial changes that are going to be a little bit rough that are coming about, in the near future. So I think we'll all see how it unfolds together.
Right. Lewis asked a question in the Q&A tab here that people can use. But he started out with, if the Cabal knows they were going to win, if the Cabal knows they're going to lose, why are they still pursuing transhumanism? But I assume they don't know they're going to lose.
No. They have faith in their God.
Yeah. This may be a fun question. So, what would happen if you met yourself on the 20 and back? If you came back and saw your parallel self?
I don't know.
It's a good answer. Yeah. I could say that I'm suspicious of the people who answer questions, and they always have an answer too.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on this? Person was asking about they feel that they're very empathic and they have a difficulty leaving the house because of the negativity they feel from people around them, and they're asking if there's any way they can protect themselves from the intense negativity that they're feeling all the time from other people.
Yeah, different empaths develop different abilities to protect themselves. I have basically a shield. I can, just like how you decide to ignore a person in a room, just turn your energy away from them. I've developed the ability to do that. But you have to be consciously doing it. It starts to drop, and then other people's emotions and stuff come in. But yeah, it's something I deal with. Driving around, you can feel all these different people's emotions. You just have to learn to mitigate it. And during times when you really need to block it, it takes energy to do it, but you learn to block it. But the main thing is, processing it, not just like it keeps hitting you and you're just like, oh, it's hitting you. You got to process it. Oh, wow, that person must be going through something. I felt something, that's not me, that's external. You have to kind of process it and not just let it hit you like rain, just keep pelting you. You have to kind of process it and sort of tell yourself that it's an outside source. And some people just never get there that are empaths. They just internalize every damn thing. And there's nothing they just aren't able to develop the ability to mentally, it's that all heart thing. They just feel, and they don't engage here. So you have to start engaging here, or this is going to lead you all over the place and just keep you frazzled.
I'd like to go to a question now that was about one of your recent updates about the group we're calling the Confederation of Free Colonies, formed by the Global Galactic League of Nations. They're asking, how large is this fleet, and have they teamed up with any other groups?
The fleet is pretty large, but it has been split up, working on a number of different missions that they're doing out there on their way here. There's too much to get into, but there's it's a large fleet, and it will start to reconnect as it gets closer here, but it's kind of split up doing various tasks right now.
All right. Well, I'd love to get into that more on a future chat with you then too. So do you feel that this group, any portion of this fleet, will be arriving at Earth or on Earth before the solar event?
From what I was told, they were being very careful how everything happened on Earth. They were liberating the rest of the solar system and helping to kind of take out the underground military facilities of different ETs in different battles. But it's very important that the people on the surface are a part of liberating the surface and not waiting to be liberated. It's very important to the beings that are helping this confederation that we learn our lessons. And because if they just come and save us and then leave, we're just going to repeat the same crap, and humanity as a group has refused to learn certain lessons, and we're going to have to learn them this time. And if we don't, we're not going to be on that alpha timeline.
There's a question here that kind of made me laugh. I know that you talked about the intense disinformation that's happening around some of the recent fires, and this person asked if they can just cry global warming and burn us from outer space, what can we do?
What has to happen is that we have to start standing up in the streets and stop participating in this. All this world government is a bunch of people got together and said, all right, we'll create resources called money, and we'll use that money to be able to exchange these certain things. Now we just need everyone to participate in it. And they grew it to this giant thing that took over the whole planet, to where you have to participate in it. And the only reason it works is because we're participating in it. Once, people stand up and stop participating in it en masse, that's going to have, there's going to have to be something that there's a big shift on the planet. We're starting to see, I don't know. I am not super optimistic that humanity is going to choose the optimal timeline. I know a lot of people are like, oh, faith, believe. This is like, the people that are awakened are such a small percentage of humanity that we are not going to be able to dictate how humanity makes their decision. We're here to try to help guide them and influence it, but humanity is going to decide what it is going to go the way it decides to go. And humanity as a mass consciousness, mass group is in the last 3 or 4 cycles or whatever has refused to choose a positive timeline. So we'll see what happens.
So maybe there's another question here about, the nature of whether or not we're facing another cycle. But I guess this is something that is still not decided. It's not going to be decided up until the very last minute, when humanity has an option to choose on the last.
When the solar event occurs, that huge electromagnetic space-time occurrence locks us in to the timelines that we have chosen. And there are still multiple timelines going on, but we are going to experience the one that we are energetically tuned into. And, 20, 30,000 people on the planet meditating can make a huge difference on consciousness, but it doesn't change it. Okay. That metaphor can be used to the influence that we're having on the planet. We have influence. That influence grows, it ebbs and flows, but we are not going through our esoteric religious beliefs going to force the planet into a positive timeline just because we are ready, and with the rest of the planet isn't. I used to have a lot of high hopes, but the effects of the solar system getting close to the solar event, the electromagnetic field, a lot of things are changing, and it's affecting consciousness. And it affects consciousness this way so that we can focus it. So it makes the things that are screwed up in our world evident. It makes it undeniably right frickin' here. And then it's up to us to do something about it. But we've been in such a scattered state for so many thousands of years that we're, you know, and it's not the aliens' fault; it's our fault. You know, so I don't know. I'm hoping that humanity pulls it together and something en masse happens that really helps us switch to the positive timeline. But the planet, people are going and they're acting insane right now.
There's another question here that was about. I think you had mentioned something about a colony on Mars being liberated, but I don't remember the details. Is that true that you said something about colony on Mars?
Not liberated. There were rescued. There was a colony, a group that were. It's a colony, but it was a joint complex of people living and then factories. And all of these people were going to be the first people that were forced to do all of the transhumanist technology, and they were rescued. But that there was no liberation.
And why was it that they were allowed to be rescued, but not others?
It had to do with the people that were there and who they were connected to in the SSP Alliance. I believe that some of the people in the SSP Alliance had a lot of family, and I think it might have been as simple as that, but I'm not sure.
Do you think that foreign governments like China are aware of the upcoming solar event?
Yes. Every country on the planet is. That's how they were tricked into giving a percentage of their GDP to the secret government to build these underground bases and infrastructure on other planets, was to save people from every race. So yeah, at least the deep part of the government from every country is aware on some level of this event coming. Some of them are only waiting for like a kind of an earth shift. They aren't aware of a solar event being the cause of it. You know, it just depends on their level of knowledge.
All right.
We can do a couple more and then we need to cut it off.
I think we've hit about an hour now. This person was asking about how do the toilet systems work on board these craft, like the research vessel?
Well, they're not going to like the answer. Everything is recycled, and that they have a certain amount of resources that are like certain proteins and oils and stuff like that are used to feed the printers, the food printers. But there have been times to where ships have been, you know, stuck in areas where they don't get resupplied for long periods of time, and the food printers recycle the human waste. So, you know, and there were times to where they were even recycling dead bodies of the crew into the same recycling system. And, you know, they would end up, you know, eating food that was food printed that came from human waste, dead bodies, whatever. It's broken down and remolecularized or something. So yeah, it's a closed system that human waste is completely recycled, but it's not like filtered. It is like it's molecularly, like the water, hydrogen items, the H2O molecules are like stripped away from other things. I don't know how to describe it, but it's molecular reorganization type of technology.
Right. And I think for the last question, it'd be good to cover a couple of points here that It's a rather significant thing. We're about to do a webinar series here on activism. We're telling people to get behind David Grush and what he's been trying to do. So we have some criticisms of David Grush that people have come up with. One of them being that he's maybe one of his attorneys is Charles McCullough, who somebody thinks they had connections to the CIA and the Clintons. And there was another argument I saw somebody make that was that there seems to be a belief system amongst people that are working with David Grush, like Jeremy Corbell and Bob Lazar also seem to be one of the leading people who people believe may be promoting a belief system that the ET craft, we could not reverse engineer them, and that somehow because these people have a belief that we could not reverse engineer certain craft, that means we don't have a secret space program, and therefore there's a layer of disinformation that's deliberate around, emphasizing the lower level information. But for me, it seems like believing that we're reverse engineering craft is enough of a breakthrough that we need to break that wall down.
It doesn't matter what people believe. It doesn't matter, if a person believes it's impossible, that's a part of it. They haven't had firsthand knowledge. They haven't been shown it. They're just hearing the same speculation everyone else is hearing. So it's just their opinion. As it comes to like certain lawyers, some are involved with the CIA, get the fuck over that. All these people coming out are going to be from within the government. They're going to be people that 20 years ago, we would have been like, oh my gosh, that type of person giving us this type of information. That's no, I don't believe it. These people are coming out and dropping the information that they have. They're going to all have had involvement with the CIA, different types of things that people that are looking for excuses in this community are all squeamish about. Get over it. You'd be suspicious but this information that's coming out is going to be coming out in a way that we don't want. We want stuff to come out in a way that validates, I believe in the secret space program. The information that comes out, well, damn it, that should validate what I believe. That's not how disclosure works. That's not how it's going to work. We're not even going to get the information. The Congress says when those 40 people come forward, they're going to do closed door hearings and answer their questions. We're not going to hear that stuff. We're not going to hear it. And full disclosure is not going to happen. We're not going to get all of the information and everybody's going to be going kumbaya. We're going to be fighting for it throughout the process. But as we're getting the information, you keep pulling. You don't push it away. You take that information and you keep pulling and you ask more questions. You don't just, I don't trust, and you're going to miss the boat. People that are doing that are going to miss the boat. David Grush is coming out, putting himself out there kind of in a different way than I did. He doesn't even have any firsthand knowledge, but he is opening up the door for those who do, and he's taking the hits so that the other people can come forward. This is not going to be the disclosure that anyone in this community sat around and envisioned or hoped for. It's going to be a continuous process. You've got to be a part of it, guys. Snap out of these little fanciful UFO religions and actually be a part. All these little religions and belief systems about these different groups that are doing all this work, those are little traps, basically. We're getting trapped and not being a part of disclosure. And we've made such a spectacle of ourselves that these people are coming out, as I've said, they don't have anything to do with us. So, if we want to be a part of the disclosure process, we're going to have to bridge the gap and try to become a part of it, because the disclosure process has divorced itself from the disclosure community and all of our beliefs and hopes for what disclosure will be. Disclosure is disclosure, and it's going to be what it's going to be. And, just like time unfolds, it doesn't unfold the way we want and hope, a lot of times this process is going to unfold in the same way. So people need to snap out of it and decide, okay, these are my beliefs. I'm going to keep them over here, just like most people with religions should. And then I'm going to focus on this information that's coming out and help keep that coming out, because if more of that comes out, who knows? Some of the stuff I wanted to come out, some of the stuff I believe in may come out in the process over years, but it's not going to just be this big explosion of disclosure. And all of a sudden, yes, there were UAPs, and oh, by the way, yeah, we have an infrastructure in space. That's not how. It's too simple-minded to think that that's how it's going to work. People, you cannot be left or right, black or white. It's always in the middle, and it's always a little bit of both in real life when things play out.
Yeah. I will say, Corey, I've been impressed that you've been saying this since early 2018 when the UFO community first started getting very excited about the disclosures because of the New York Times revealing the information about ATIP. And that was just the very smallest information. And you were saying way back then, I remember at a panel on Contact in the Desert in 2018, you were sitting next to some of the other well-known figures, and you were the one who was emphasizing we need to keep pulling on these threads. We need to see that this is an opportunity and keep on using every opportunity that's being handed to us and keep demanding for the deeper truth. So I'm very, very happy that's been very strong about that.
Yeah, people that think that they're going to get disclosure on their terms and will only accept it on their terms need to get out of the way. The people that want to come together and pull at the threads and be a part of getting disclosure into the public and out of these dark recesses of our government, then there's an opportunity to do so, and right now is the time.
Yeah. I appreciate it, and I look forward to digging into this more with you on the subject of activism and activation and how people can get more involved and contributing, and making this not about individuals or specific belief systems, but making this about the bigger movement that's happening that we're all contributing to.
Yep. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I look forward to seeing everyone on that webinar.
Yep. People can sign up at ascensionworks.tv. And we look forward to seeing you guys there.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll see you at the next Q&A.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Take care.